Hello, I'm Summer Evelyn with Summer Evelyn Healing Arts. The purpose of this video is to talk a little bit about pendulums and healing. And the reason why I'm doing this, I'm hosting a private Reikishare this coming weekend, and we're going to talk about Reiki and pendulums combined with healing. And many of the people in the group aren't familiar with using pendulums for healing, only divination. And I will be honest, I really haven't used my pendulum on healing others. I've used it on me personally. And so in preparation for making this sort of instructional, informational video for my peeps, I've been watching a lot of YouTube. And so here's the book that I'm using to talk about Reiki and healing with pendulums. This guy, Eric Hunter, PhD, very knowledgeable. He has made me realize my 3 pendulums are not good for using them for healing. And so let's start at the beginning. And so with this, especially for my Reiki people, I think many of you probably have crystal pendulums, which that's good for divination. Not the greatest for healing, but I don't want you to go out and buy new pendulums, not unless you know that this is something you really want to incorporate into your healing practice. So let me show you my pendulums. So I initially had a beautiful rose quartz pendulum, and it was my first pendulum. It was so pretty. It quit working for me, and I just didn't understand why. And so I eventually got rid of it. And so when I learned Reiki, I did take a Reiki and Crystals course in Sedona. And part of doing the chakra balancing is knowing which way your chakras spin. And so at that point, I wasn't comfortable muscle testing. So I was able to program this pendulum to help me figure out the spin. And so it's got, I'm sure this is fake, just a little crystal here, and then it's got 7 little colored beads noting the chakras. I'm sure these are probably fake. So that was my first one. And then on one of my trips to Sedona, I tried this one. So it's got a clear quartz crystal. And I know copper is really good for energy, so I tried this and it actually works. So I was sort of like pretty thrilled. And so within the last year or so, I've been doing more and more with dowsing. Okay, where'd number 3 go? And with charts. And these aren't the best for charts, the ones. So I ended up getting this copper one, which has the little pointy. So those are my 3 pendulums that I don't use very much, but every once in a while. But again, it's more for just on me. So with all the videos that I've watched, the biggest thing is that all of mine have chains. And Eric says you should not be doing healing with pendulums with chains, because the electromagnetic energy flows from up the chain into your palm chakra. And so if you're working with someone else's energy who is sick or might have psychic attacks or other things, this energy can come up into you using a chain. And so that's why everything that he used, and then there was another guy that I watch quite a few of his videos, they only do pendulums on strings. So that was quite interesting. And also, the chain could also be considered a pendulum because it can swing. And so it might interfere with the pendulum message from the actual base main part of the pendulum. So doing a string is much more effective. So when you have a pendulum, say you purchased your first pendulum and you bring it home, the first thing you need to do is clear it. If you've never done this, you probably should do this, because especially if you bought it from a store or someone gave it to you, other people have been handling it, so it could have absorbed their energy. So there are many different ways of cleansing and clearing the energies. One would be to lay your pendulum in the sunlight for a few hours or the moonlight. Another would be to set it in a bowl of sea salt, and then afterwards toss out the sea salt because you don't want to keep that. You can lay it on a piece of selenite. There was one of the people that actually had soap and water, and she just sort of rinsed it through the soap and water, and then she put it just in water to rinse off any of the soap. I would not recommend that, just because a number of your crystals are too sensitive to water. So maybe do one of the other things that I recommend. Another is smudging it by using sage. I do have a sage spray, so maybe you don't want to spray it right on the crystal, but spray it on a cloth and wrap it. Just imagine wiping off any of the energies. And the most important thing is just bringing this to a neutral state. And the last one is you can send your pendulum Reiki with the intention that you're going to clear it and bring it to a neutral state. And so that's probably the most easy one for all that know Reiki. So let's get to the healing piece. So it's very interesting. There's two different trains of thought, and I have definitely no formal training on using a pendulum for healing, but as I've worked with people who use pendulums to heal me, they spin. And so counterclockwise is release, and clockwise is sort of instill or add. But there's two trains of thought, it seems to be, with the releasing and the instilling. So one is you get a healer that they'll just spin, okay, we want to release this, and so they'll just spin and spin and spin and spin. And one guy says, oh, you can do it for 2 minutes, you can do it for 5 minutes, you can do it for 30 minutes, and you just keep spinning. But the one that I like, so I get the pendulum started, and if my intention is to release, say a negative emotion, and I would be more specific in doing that. So I'll get it started spinning, and I definitely don't hold it up this high, but I'm doing this for the camera. It's not the most comfortable. And then with that intention set, I quit spinning it and I just let it go. And when it stops or it changes direction, it's done. And I sort of like that concept. Rather than just keeping spinning and spinning and spinning and forcing it, I like the pendulum to tell me when it's done. But all this, of course, is personal preference, but that's pretty much my favorite. So it's almost done. It's just there. All right. So that's my basics for using the pendulum for clearing. And then the same thing with reinforcing or instilling it. So you want to do clockwise. All right, so let's say I want to really instill abundance in health, abundance in money, abundance in joy. Okay, so I've got it started. I'm just going to let it keep spinning. This one's sort of cool. It sort of flashes a bit as it catches the light going around. And I will put, so the guy that wrote the book, he did a video on choosing a pendulum and why. Lots of really good information. There is a brass pendant called Isis that does self-clearing so that you don't have to worry about your pendulum collecting energies. Everybody else talks about crystal pendants, but I do believe that, especially when you're healing others, the crystals can absorb the energies of who you're working on. So, because here's what he said, the reason why you shouldn't use clear crystals. And he gave an example of quartz, but there, as you know, there are many other clear crystals. You shouldn't use them as a pendulum for healing because they store energy at the subatomic level, and there are gaps in the molecules that hold that energy. And this actually creates a permanent record within the crystals. So, meaning that you could never fully clear that energy out of the crystal, which would not be good if it was, if especially you were clearing something pretty negative. So hopefully that helps. Let me know if you have any questions. Again, I'll put the link below to the video I like the best about choosing your own crystal, especially if you're using it for healing. So thank you and bye.